This is Spitalfields in London's East End. This is the heart of Jack the Ripper country. It's hard to believe that today, with all these flash shops and pubs and places full of life as they are, that this is once considered to be the most dingy, dangerous, sordid places. Not only in the United Kingdom, not in London, not in the UK, but in the world. The building in front at the moment was built by the Catholic Church in the latter part of the 19th century, and even today when you see the word men there, and this was the men's entrance, this was a home for the homeless, a place where they could come when they had nowhere else to go. And the reason I'm standing here now and filming it is that probably all of the victims of Jack the Ripper actually stayed at one time or another here. Men and women's entrances, which are separate. This area has changed incredibly in the past 10 years. So much so that it's almost, for myself, having not been here since 1992, it's almost unrecognisable. That's not to say, however, that the buildings have changed everywhere. Indeed, the buildings at the very end of this street, on the left-hand side, were built in the 1670s. The car park was built in the 1970s. The building directly in front is built on the site of the former fruit market, which was one of the largest employers in this region. Of course, to actually have a barrow and a stand for people at the end of the 19th century, that was the site. That was like their ambition. That's as far as they could probably get. And this was the whole aspiration that they could hold. At the bottom of this street, we see the church, Christ Church, which was a French Huguenot church. And the houses on the other side of the road were houses which belonged to silk weavers. At the beginning of the 18th century, this was quite an exclusive area. By the end of the 19th century, it was a slum. And no doubt, as I said earlier, the worst slum in the world. The houses had been occupied, that once had been for elegant French refugees who had built up businesses. They had moved on. The silk industry had moved elsewhere, leaving these houses to become doss houses rented by the night to people who had usually almost zero form of income. Hard to imagine it today, walking through here. Beside the church is this pub, the 10 Bells, which changed its name to the Jack the Ripper but was forced to change its name back again. The 10 Bells was one of 3 public houses which certain all the victims actually frequented, and it's very, very close to the heart of where this mystery is, and that is today the solution to this mystery. We see in the street some old houses as they would have been, as would have at the end of the 19th century. These houses were probably built sometime in the mid-19th century. This is Spitalfields Market today, a recently renovated area very close to Liverpool Street Station, which is in this direction. And this used to be, obviously, the fruit market was closed 20 or 30 years ago. Today it's being done up as a very trendy place. Indeed, the houses around here are extremely expensive. Now, in the end of the 80s, you could buy a house here for £100,000. Now value starting at £2 million. And very fine example of urban renewal. So in this house we have the AD 1885. My thoughts are probably that was a date of renovation more than anything else. Of course, then there would have been doss houses, nothing else other than that. You have newer blocks, possibly rather expensive places, and not surprised really given the amount of development in this area. And Liverpool Street Underground Station just behind me. Here we have a look at Commercial Street, old houses, Spitalfields Church, Christ Church down there. Also they have Hanbury Street, where one of the victims of Jack the Ripper was murdered. This is Hanbury Street, and on the left we have somebody's put some graffiti for Annie Chapman Street, 1840 to 1888. Annie Chapman was the second victim of the Ripper, and she was killed here on the night of the 8th of September 1888. This street today is very, very similar to what it looked like then. Annie herself was killed in the yard of number 29 in full view of many, many people, theoretically, although nobody actually saw. The site of where she was killed, a leather apron was found, which led to the arrest and questioning of a gentleman known as Leather Apron, although he was found to be totally innocent. He himself, he was an immigrant from Poland, a Jewish bootmaker. But it was quite obvious that he'd had nothing to do with either crime, as his alibi in both cases was very, very hard. His family vouched him on the second attempt, and on the first attempt he'd been nowhere near here. He'd been in Holloway in North London, some 15 kilometres from here, approximately. This area was once an area where it had a very strong Jewish community. People who'd landed here in the port, largely from Poland, and then they had come to live here, which was near is the port. In the 1970s, the people who came here, the Jews had moved on, and Bangladeshis had come to take over. And we can still see this here. There we have a Bangladeshi newspaper. We have here another Bangladeshi centre, and even some of the street signs were written not only in English but also in Bangladeshi. The buildings on the right hand side of the street date from the late 18th century, when the street itself was probably in its way down, although it was still inhabited by people of French origin who were silk weavers. This is Brick Lane, which is, I think, fair to say, the heart of the British Bangladeshi community. Restaurants, many Jack the Ripper tourists coming here, with Hanbury Street leading off. Wonderful place to come and eat.